Alright guys, so here's the review of the San Martin SN0007GB. So this is another one of their more budget offerings. So I've actually checked out a couple of others on the channel before, which you might have seen. If you haven't, it's these two down here. So I'll leave a link to them up in the top if you want to check them out. If you're wondering what the other watch is here in the roll, this is another one that I've reviewed on the channel. It's not one that you see very often. I don't think many other people have checked it out, so I'll leave a link to that up in the top as well. But anyway, let's get down to this one. So, as you can probably see, we've got the old style packaging, so I'll quickly move the watch out of the way for a second, briefly show you this in passing. It's the one that San Martin used to use before they upgraded it a couple of times to what they've currently got now. You'll also get these in the box, but we'll get into that in a bit more detail as we get into the review. And here is the actual watch. So, as you can tell, I've got the blue dial version, but they do also do a couple of other ones. They do a green one and a gunmetal one. So if you're not keen on this blue, those might be more to your taste. They also do this on an FKM rubber strap as well, but the price difference between that and the bracelet isn't that much, so I'd definitely be recommending going for the bracelet. You can always buy a cheap strap afterwards, but it's always nice to have a bracelet that fits the watch perfectly and comes with it. So before we get into this in any more detail, let's go over the dimensions first. So we've got a diameter of 39mm, thickness of 13, lug width of 20, and then the all input on lug to lug is coming in at 47.9. That being said though, you might have noticed we do actually have male-in links on this, but they are interesting. So they do affect that lug to lug, but not as much as you'd think. So you can see they don't actually drop down below the case line. They're actually slightly up, which is different from previous ones I've checked out. So it does actually drop down the actual bracelet pretty flush. So it doesn't wear as big as you'd think, despite having male-in links. They're a little bit strange really. It's not something I've seen before. It's kind of like a in between male and female end links, I'd say. The way they've done it, the way it's integrated, it's slightly different. For comparison, if you check out the 37mm version of this that I reviewed a while back, I'll leave a link to that up in the top, you'll see the end links on that stick out a lot more past the case than this one. So they've actually changed it since then. And I definitely think it's an improvement for the better. And I'll be showing you how it wears on wrist later on, obviously. So, seeing as we're talking about it, let's talk about this bracelet in a bit more detail and go over some of the other little things that are going on with this one. If you've seen the other budget San Martin ones I've checked out previously, you're probably going to know what's coming up here. So the finishing on the bracelet is really nice. You've got polished sides and the brushed top, but obviously the polishing will gather fingerprints and smudges a bit, so just give it a quick wipe. And then you'll be able to see we've actually got a pin and collar system on this, which isn't my favourite. Would have preferred just push pins, but as I say, the rest of the bracelet is really nicely finished, and you're only going to have to change it the one time, so it's not too big a deal. When it comes to the clasp, got the signed San Martin logo there. We've got a nice chamfer detail on the edge. And we have actually got a decent level of micro adjust there as well. So again, with it being a more budget offering, they don't have the on-the-fly adjustable clasp that they do offer with some of the more expensive ones. But it is a nice milled one. And as I say, plenty of micro adjust. Sterile case back, which is screwed down there. Then moving on to the case, we'll get a quick zoom in on that so you can see that in a bit more detail. You can see we've got that signed San Martin crown there with the hexagonal logo. And then we've got a polished side to the case, matching the polished side to the bracelet. And then on top, brushed, again, matching the bracelet. And it integrates nicely between the two. And again, you can see that slightly unusual male end link. When it comes to the crystal, you can see we've got an ever so slight curve on that, and it does stick out ever so slightly past that bezel. Definitely not a top hat style one, but not flat either. And you can see we've got a nice grippy bezel there. Flicking around to the front, let's take a closer look at that dial and talk about that in a bit more detail now. So we've actually got an enamel dial on this, which is really nice to see. Applied indices, applied logo, all nicely done. Nice high polish around them, so they catch the light nicely as well. And then when it comes to text on the dial, the only thing we've got on the bottom is automatic 200 meters and 660 feet. Then when it comes to the date window at the 3 o'clock, we've got that same silver surround, matching the ones on the indices. So it integrates nicely. I think it does kind of blend in. I still prefer them down at the 6 personally, but as I say, I think it integrates quite nicely the way they've done it. And then when it comes to the hands, you can see we've got really nice proportions on all of them. And we've also got some really nice detailing on them as well. So you can see we've got the chamfered edges. So again, just catching the light really nicely. It's a really good looking dial, I think. And then when it comes to the minute track, that is just printed around the outside. And because we've got that ever so slightly curved crystal, you can see there's a tiny bit of distortion around the edge, but not too much. Because I know some people don't like that. I personally do, but again, it's there, it's just subtle though. So you're probably wondering, have they saved money with the crystal, or is it still sapphire? Let's find out now. Using the trusty diamond selector tool. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal. So they haven't saved money there, good to see. So far it's shaping up pretty nicely, considering this is a more budget offering. So does this trend carry on when it comes to the loom? Let's find out now. So even before we charge it up, you can see we've got a really good amount there, but let's charge it up, keep it fair. And there we go. So straight away, first thing you're probably going to notice, we've got that nice green of the C3. And the second thing you're probably going to notice is the fact that we don't actually have a fully loomed bezel, it's just that loom pip at the top, which again is probably where they've cut a little bit of the costs, with it being a more budget offering. But the overall loom application is still really good. We've got plenty on there. And because we've got those applied indices, which are nice and broad, you've got plenty of area for loom, and they've definitely utilised that really well. There's no patchiness there at all, it's consistent, evenly applied across the hands and the indices and that loom pip as well. We've even got some on that little second hand, so they haven't missed that out. And as I say, it's a lot better than I was expecting, given it being a more budget offering. I thought they might have skimped slightly on the loom, maybe a few less layers or something. But as you can see, it's that good that it almost looks like we've got some around the edge of the dial, because it's reflecting off the inside of the crystal, which is a really cool effect. Do like that. But again, it just shows that we've got a really good amount of loom on there. When it comes to the longevity of it as well, it's definitely going to last you all night, no problems whatsoever. If I had a slight gripe, perhaps the hands could have been slightly broader so they matched the thickness of the indices, so it was more consistent maybe there. But other than that, that's just nitpicking. I can't really complain. As I say, great loom, especially on a more budget offering. Now let's talk about this bezel in a bit more detail. So it's a ceramic bezel, and it's 120 click. And we've got plenty of grip on there, as you saw earlier. So that isn't an issue. Nice clicky action. No backplay at all. It's a really solid bezel, and when it comes to the alignment, that's spot on too, so no issues there. So again, it doesn't appear that they've skimped on this either. As I say, works perfectly and absolutely zero backplay. So getting onto the movement, as you've probably guessed, yep, we've got an NH35, as you get with a lot of San Martins. So we'll unscrew the crown, pop it out to the first position. Then we can change the date. Pop it out to the second position, second hand stops, so we got hacking. Then we can just change the time. Pop it back in, second hand re-engages. All working well. Hand winding, nice and smooth, no issues there. So just screw it back down. As you come to expect with the NH35, rock solid movements, no problem. And if you do ever have an issue with it, they're cheap enough and easy enough to replace. So all that's left to do now is show you what it's like on wrist, go over the pros and cons, and then you can decide whether you want to pick one of these up or not. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So I think it looks really good. It definitely doesn't look like a budget piece. And as you can see, with those end links, as I said, because they don't really come past the case, and it drops down pretty much straight away, it conforms the wrist really nicely, despite having those, well, what are technically male end links, despite them wearing more like female ones, I'd say. I like all the little attention to detail, like the little polish section under that bezel, which catching the light again. Same with those applied indices, and those hands as well, with the detailing on them. They all just catch the light really nicely. And then when it comes to the clasp, despite it not being on the fly adjustable clasp, because we've got plenty of micro adjust, you should be able to get the perfect fit. As I say, the only slight issue I have, really, is the pin and collar system, but it's only something you've got to deal with once when you're sizing it. Once you've done that, you shouldn't have to do it again. The whole head of the watch, I'd say, is right up there with San Martin's best. You've got the applied indices, the sapphire crystal, 120 click ceramic bezel, great loom, enamel dial. Yeah, we've only got an NH35, but that's the case for a lot of San Martin's even more expensive watches, so you can't really fault them for that. It's only really when it comes to the bracelet and clasp that they've downgraded a couple of bits, and they are fairly minor bits, I'd say. Obviously we don't have the on-the-fly adjustable clasp, which is quite a big one, but you can understand why, because it's obviously quite expensive. But the only other thing is that pin and collar system. And it's only, again, something you've got to do once. So once you've done that, you can kind of forget about it. The rest of the bracelet is good quality. There's no issues with it. It's nicely finished. Yeah, it's got some polished sections which might gather fingerprints and stuff, but that's not a quality issue. That's just a design choice. So overall, I think it's a really good package. But the question is, do you agree? And if you do, are you interested in picking one up? If you are, link will be down in the description as always. That is an affiliate link. It does help support the channel, but you don't pay any extra. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.